First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my dad that he doesn't get to be grandfather after he bailed on me? Mom and Dad got married when she was pregnant with my older brother, and a couple years later, they had me. When I was 12 and my brother was 15, we found out that while my brother was Dad's biological child, I was not. Dad found this out around the same time as we did. Dad then immediately began the divorce process and told my brother that if he wanted to continue a relationship with him, he could, but I wasn't allowed. I did message Dad until he blocked me. My brother brought me to Dad's new place one time and Dad slammed the door when he saw me. Dad got back in touch when I was 16 and we talked. The talk didn't go well. He was insulting me, insulting to Mom, and unsympathetic to my point of view, which was basically that Mom messed up, but I didn't deserve to have the only father I'd ever known slam the door in my face. I didn't see him until 5 years later, when I was 21, and he showed up at my university graduation. I let him stay because my brother promised to keep him in check. He congratulated me and gave me a necklace he said he'd meant to give me on my 18th. That was his mother's. Dad's mom, my nan, passed away when I was 8, long before we found out, and we had a great relationship. So I accepted the necklace as a reminder of her, not of him. I'm now 23, and I've just had a baby. A boy. I posted a selfie back in March that showed I was pregnant, and a few people sent me baby things. I didn't ask for it. One thing that arrived was a blanket with a card congratulating me, and the card said, "Love Dad." He didn't reach out to me after this. I've been home from the hospital for a few months now, and I decided now was the time to post a birth announcement. Nothing major and no pictures, just a quick, "Pleased to report that baby was born on date with no issues, and we're both home safe and sound." Dad has now messaged me, saying he was upset that I didn't reach out to him personally to let him know he had a grandson. I responded that he doesn't have a grandson because he doesn't have a daughter. He said that I'm his daughter, and I responded, "Until you walk out on us both. You know this kid isn't related to you either, right?" He then told me that he couldn't believe that I was acting so childish and cruel, and said that this has been hard for him too, and I should develop some empathy for him before hanging up. I vented to my brother about it, and he sided with Dad. He said I'm being unnecessarily harsh, especially with my final comment, and that it was hard for Dad too, and I need to get over myself, stop being petty, and pull my head out of my behind before hanging up. I'm not making any decisions off the consensus here, but I cannot see Dad's side here, and I have no one to talk to except for a 3-month-old, so if anyone can give me a little more perspective, I'd appreciate it. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Can we leave my mother out of this, please? Her and Dad's drama is only tangential to the actual conflict between me and Dad. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your dad needs to first acknowledge the damage it caused to 12 to 21-year-old you. Especially that 12-year-old little girl. My heart breaks. If he cannot acknowledge that, he doesn't begin to deserve your forgiveness. Exactly. Not the a-hole. You were still a child. It was fine for your brother because he didn't disown him. Your brother has no right to say stuff like that to you, and he had a completely different experience. He lost the privilege of being a granddad when he shut the door in your face. Not the a-hole. In order for him to make amends, he would have to own up to what he did to a child, offer an apology, and if you accepted, then maybe he could try and have a grandfatherly place in the child's life. Your brother got to be the golden child, and you were scapegoated. He has no points of reference on how you feel, and his opinion is baseless. You're protecting your child from going through the same hurt you did. Good on you, OP. Not the a-hole. I feel like the brother and father have probably had long conversations about this, but have never included OP in them and just decided to not acknowledge any wrongdoing on the father's part. How childish. Not the a-hole. This guy sucks, and you were absolutely valid not letting him in your life. He wants the fun parts of having a grandchild without having to admit he did anything wrong in the past. Screw him, and congrats on your baby. Not the a-hole. Your dad left you when you were 12. Up until then, he was your dad. I know it must have hurt him to know your mom cheated on him, but none of that is your fault or responsibility. He gave up any rights to you or your family when he left. You have every right to lay the boundaries that you need to be happy. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for being done with my daughters? I am a 52-year-old male. I got my ex-wife Maggie pregnant when we were in our last year of college. We were both from conservative families, so we got married. From our marriage, I gained 2 daughters, Jenny, age 30, and Cassie, age 27. My wife and I were not a great couple. We married way too young and grew apart. She became more religious as we got older, and I became less religious. She also was always angry at me for something or the other. My political beliefs shifted to be more liberal, and my wife became more conservative. We did our best to not fight in front of the kids, but our arguments were loud and could be heard through the walls. 12 years ago, I found out Maggie was having an affair. Jenny was 17 and going to college soon, while Cassie was still in high school. Maggie's family had set up a trust fund for the girls' education, and Maggie and I kept separate finances, so the money part of the divorce was easy. Custody of Cassie was a fight, and my ex-wife claimed I was abusive. Because our fights were noisy, the girls believed her, and over the next year, they cut me off. My attorney told me that because of the girls' ages, the courts wouldn't force visitation. I kept the lines of communication open, but they cut me out of their lives. I was heartbroken. I sank into a depression. Over time, I rationalized that the girls were adults, and that I had done my duty to them. My sister has a relationship with them, and through her, I have learned that both of them got married and that Jessica had 2 children. I've heard that their relationship is strained with their mother as she hated their husbands and refused to attend Cassie's wedding. The girls both want to try to reconcile with me. I think that they've realized that I wasn't the villain that my ex-wife painted me to be. I'm done though. Losing them was incredibly painful. I hurt for a long time, and missing their weddings and the birth of my grandchild. Since my divorce, I have refused to get too close to anyone new, and I don't want to rely on anyone. I'm not on social media, and I screen my calls on my personal phone. The girls have tried to call, but I've blocked their numbers. I use email strictly for professional reasons, and I don't do Facebook. My sister is giving me a hard time for not wanting to reconnect because she says that the girls were kids and didn't know what my ex was like. I don't think I have it in me to let anyone in again. Now for the top comments. No a-holes here. I don't have it in me to call you an a-hole. You were deeply hurt, and as a result, are extremely leery and cautious of forming new relationships. The fact that after this much time, you won't form new relationships, though, is concerning. This isn't a healthy attitude, and you really need to consider therapy. As for your girls, I do agree with your sister. They were kids and didn't understand the ramifications of their actions, particularly the 14-year-old, and didn't truly know what was going on. They likely felt forced to choose sides, and sadly, they chose wrong. But that's not their fault either. They're as much victims of your ex as you are. That being said, barring truly horrific actions, you don't get to be done with your children. That's not how parenting works. And your girls haven't done anything truly horrific. You're blaming them for your ex's actions. I do think you should try to re-establish a relationship with your girls. I would go slowly. More importantly though, I think you need to get some help to deal with what has happened and how it has affected you and your ability to create relationships. I agree that no a-holes here. But one thing, you say that it isn't possible to be done with your children, which is true, but didn't his daughters already decide to be done with Opie over some lies? Isn't that the whole reason Opie isn't being receptive now, is because they've been done with him? And as far as he's concerned, they've made their decision and they don't get to change their minds? No a-holes here, but I think you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. You're choosing at the stage to hold on to hurt feelings, understandably hurt, instead of embracing what might be a wonderful relationship with your daughters and grandchildren. Don't do this to yourself. Your girls were teenagers when this all went down, and were probably confused and hurting. You now have the chance to start again and get to know the adults that they have become. No a-holes here, and I absolutely agree that now you have a chance to rebuild your relationship with the girls who probably realized their mistakes and want to have you in their adult life. I was estranged from my dad for 20 years. He was the first to reach out, and we started our relationship up like we never had been apart. 5 years later, he died. What I wouldn't give to have those 20 years he and I wasted back. Sorry to hear this. Glad you at least got a little time with him before he passed. Now for the last story. Biological mother of my adopted baby wants back into her and our lives. Backstory. A little over a year ago, my best friend passed away after being in a car accident. Shortly after his passing, we discovered that the woman he was casually-ish seeing was pregnant. The woman, being at the start of her career and decently young, had no interest/desire to be a parent. Given the fact that she didn't believe in termination, her words not mine, adoption was the only option. I understood and respected that, until I discovered that she had no desire to put any effort towards finding a suitable family. She was planning on just handing her over to the system and let them figure it out. I couldn't in good conscience allow an innocent baby be handed over to a horrible system, especially not the baby my best friend dreamt about having for as long as I can remember. All he wanted was to be a dad. So I decided to foster the baby and find a suitable adoptive family myself. Towards the end of her pregnancy, at this point the paperwork was drafted but not signed, the biological mother changed her mind and decided that she would keep the baby. I respected this decision and said that given the fact that her dad, my best friend, couldn't be around, I would gladly step up and help where needed. Fast forward to the baby being born, she was born healthy. Everything was great. On day 4, the biological mother called me asking if I could mind the baby for a couple of hours so she could catch up on some sleep. Having had kids myself, I understood that she was having a rough time, and happily obliged. She left the little girl at my house with enough formula for 1 bottle and roughly 3 diapers, and a couple of hours turned into a couple of days. I was relentless in trying to reach her, but no one knew where she was, so eventually I got police involved. They tracked her down, at which point she agreed to sign her daughter over to me. After a couple of weeks, I realized that I could never hand this little girl over to another family and graduated from foster mom to adopted mom. After a hassle with judges, lawyers, social services, and a notary, she was officially my daughter. Very recently, the biological mother contacted me, asking me to be involved in my daughter's life on a regular basis. Now, I'm unsure on what to do. Given how she acted during her pregnancy, not caring about where she ended up, and how she acted abandoning her like that, I don't believe she would be the most stable person in her life, let alone be a positive addition. That leaves me to incline to decline this request. I am conflicted, and this is why. Who am I to refuse a biological mother access to her child? Would I be harming my daughter by declining her biomom access? Before adopting, I told myself that when my daughter is old enough to want to meet her biomom and decide she wants to do so, I would do anything in my power to make that happen. But it's not like I can discuss this with my daughter right now. But above is directly countered by the fact that I am, in every way but the biological way, her mother. My daughter isn't lacking or wanting for a family. She has one. I am also very doubtful of the fact that her biomom is here to stay or will add to her life in any way. When I ask her as to why she's contacting me now, almost a year later, she said because it's my kid and I get to decide whatever I want whenever I want. On top of that, she threatened to have the adoption annulled if I didn't oblige. Obviously, legally speaking, she doesn't have a leg to stand on. So, do I allow her biological mom regular visitation so they can bond as the baby grows up, assuming the biomom keeps showing up, or do I stick to my original plan and let my daughter decide on when/how/if she wants to meet her biological mother when she is ready? Personally, I would rather ban this woman from our lives, but this is all about what is best for my baby. So how do I do right by my daughter? Edit. I feel like I should add that an attorney has been contacted and has assured me that she doesn't have a leg to stand on, that everything is up to my discretion and short of me being mistreating/neglecting. Nothing can change that. Edit 2. I clarified the steps that were taken to officially adopt my daughter a little as it was causing confusion. No, you absolutely do not let her near that kid. Even under normal circumstances, it would be questionable. But she's threatening you and telling you that she will exercise power that she doesn't even have. You need to show her that you are in complete control of this situation, and that any contact she has with the child will be because you are willing to allow it. Until she understands the reality of who is in charge here, she gets nothing, and under no circumstances should you feel obligated to be cordial with her. Those are some really good points. Thank you. I do feel the need to add that I wouldn't ever let any potential visits happen unsupervised. Thank you for responding. I think you have very valid concerns about the stability this woman has in her life right now. She clearly doesn't know what she wants in regards to the pregnancy and birthed child. I think it's the right choice to not let her into your lives at this moment. However, I would be very open with your child about everything as she's growing up. Make sure she knows it's always her decision if/when she would like to meet her, once she is old enough to have an opinion on it. That is, I wouldn't wait until she is a teen to have the talk, but a literal baby cannot make any decisions. It's very important to me she knows all about what a great man her father was. So growing up, she'll hear all about how she ended up being a part of my family, in age-appropriate terms obviously. Don't do it. She's flaked on your daughter already. She's shown who she is. Believe her. Your daughter doesn't need to wonder why her mom bounces in and out of her life. Wait till she's 18. Oh, I am her mom. She is just a... That is a very good point, and thank you for your advice. I appreciate it. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you with the next one. Stay safe. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter that her mom cheated on me when my daughter said my new girlfriend looks like an OnlyFans chick? Plus update. Original post. Throwaway account and fake names for privacy. I, 49 male, got divorced from my wife Emily, 49 female, about a year and a half ago after I found out she had been cheating on me with more than one man. It wasn't just a one-time thing or a one-night mistake. She had full-on affairs with several different guys over time, and once I knew, I couldn't stay in the marriage anymore. We have 2 kids together, a son, Nick, 22 male, and a daughter, Skylar, 19 female. When we told the kids we were getting divorced, we didn't get into the reasons why. Emily didn't want the kids to know about her cheating, and at the time, I didn't want to make things worse for them by dragging them into adult problems. Since the divorce, the kids have spent more time with their mom. Nick especially has always been close to her, even when he was younger. They've always had a strong bond, and he didn't take the divorce too well. Skylar and I, on the other hand, have always been close. She's more like me, quiet, logical, and careful with trust. But because neither of them knew the real reason behind the divorce, they both naturally leaned more toward their mom's side, especially since I was the one who moved out and they stayed in the house with her. Recently, I started dating again. I met Lisa, 54 female, through a mutual friend. She's outgoing, funny, full of energy. And honestly, she's beautiful. She dresses in a way that some might call bold or sexy, but she owns it with confidence and grace. She makes me laugh, treats me with respect, and seems to truly enjoy life. After a few months of seeing each other, I decided it was time to introduce her to my kids. We all met up for lunch. Nick was surprisingly warm and friendly toward Lisa right away. He seemed to enjoy talking with her and even made jokes with her. I could tell he genuinely liked her. Skylar, though, was clearly not impressed. She barely spoke during the meal, kept giving side glances, and was cold toward Lisa without being openly rude. It was awkward, but I didn't want to push her in the moment. A couple of days later, Skylar came over to visit me. While we were talking, she suddenly said, "Lisa looks like an OnlyFans chick." If you knew Skylar, you'd be as surprised as I was. She's never been the kind of person to talk like that, especially about another woman. The way she said it, almost with disgust, caught me off guard. I asked her why she'd say something like that, and she just shrugged and looked uncomfortable. That was when I decided it was finally time to tell her the truth. I told Skylar that her mother, Emily, had cheated on me with several men. That's why the marriage ended. I told her that I met Lisa long after the divorce, and that Lisa had nothing to do with any of it. After I said that, Skylar just sat there in silence and softly said, "Oh." She didn't ask any questions, and she didn't get angry. She just got quiet and didn't say much for the rest of the visit. The next day, I got a call from my ex-wife, Emily. She was furious. She said that Skylar came home and was acting strange, and when she asked what was going on, Skylar told her I had said something about the divorce. Emily asked me if I told the kids she cheated. I said yes, because I didn't think it was right that they were walking around judging me and my life when they didn't know what really happened. Emily then said that I had implied I would keep it a secret. I reminded her that I never actually promised to keep her cheating to myself. I just didn't say anything at the time. She argued that by keeping quiet for so long, I gave her the impression I would never bring it up. And now I had broken that unspoken agreement. I told her I was done keeping secrets that made me look like the bad guy when she was the one who destroyed the marriage in the first place. Now I'm wondering, was I wrong to finally tell the truth to our daughter? I didn't go into details or try to turn her against her mom. I just told her the reason I left after she made that unfair comment about my new girlfriend. I feel like I was backed into a corner. But now I have to ask, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. How long since the divorce? How long ago did she cheat? Did she cheat with 20-year-olds when she was a 20-year-old? The divorce was finalized in November 2024. Her cheating was discovered in June 2023. I know of at least 8 guys she cheated with. She cheated with men in their mid to late 20s when she was in her late 40s. So sorry for you to have to get through something like that. Were you two in a dead bedroom situation at the time? And at least 8 men? What's up with that? Her reasoning? And how you came to find how many were she with? Between me and my ex-wife, there was no dead bedroom. There was frequent sex. My ex-wife said this wasn't the life she wanted. She said she wanted constant excitement. She said she was tired of acting like an innocent conservative woman. Not the a-hole. Cheaters hate consequences. All cheaters should be outed. Consequences are important for kids to understand the impact of actions, especially in families. Not the a-hole. She probably heard her mom say it about your girlfriend and just parroted it. Turnabout is fair play. I can't confirm whether or not my ex said that about my new girlfriend, but it is odd that my daughter would insult a woman that way. My daughter is a self-proclaimed sex-positive feminist, and she hates those kinds of insults towards women. It doesn't sound like words she would naturally say. Your daughter is a teenager who is probably having a bit of an issue with her dad dating. Reminding her that a comment like that is inconsistent with her beliefs would have been a more measured response than attacking her with her mother's infidelity. Now for the mini update. Something of an update since I posted. Even though my daughter is in her bedroom, in my house, I messaged her because she said she doesn't want to see anyone. She sent me a very, very long message she had written beforehand. In the message, my daughter admitted that her mom and her maternal aunt said those kinds of things about Lisa. She said she's embarrassed that she repeated those awful things. She said she thought that I was the one who cheated on her mom. She said she thought I had cheated on her mom with Lisa. She said she's not mad at me. She said she's mad at her mom. She said Lisa seems like a wonderful woman. She said she wants to talk about this face-to-face, but not anytime soon. She said she'll tell me when she's up to talking about it face-to-face, when she thinks she can do it without crying. Next story. Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my ex-crush after he said something very hurtful about me? Last summer, we moved across the country, and I had to go to a new school. I became part of a friend group whose members had known each other for a long time. I always felt left out because they would ignore me all the time. A while ago, I told a friend that I had a crush on a guy from our circle of friends. He was the only one who didn't completely ignore me, and that's what led me to develop feelings for him. The very next time we were all hanging out, she brought it up in front of everyone. My ex-crush made a disgusted face and said, "No thanks, I'm allergic to Asians." Everyone laughed, even that friend who revealed my secret, whom I had considered my closest friend at the time. My body went cold, and I felt this sharp pain in my stomach. All I could do was force an awkward smile. I couldn't even speak. I stayed with them for maybe 10 more minutes before I finally made an excuse and went straight home. I felt sick and ended up throwing up, then I cried for hours. That was honestly one of the worst days of my life. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and lonely. After that day, I cut contact and never hung out with them again. We ignored each other in and outside of school, and I managed to make new friends. Yesterday, my friends and I were in the school library's lounge area, talking about dumb stuff and giggling. At one point, I noticed my ex-crush looking in my direction. As soon as our eyes met, he smiled and waved at me. I felt pain and disgust in my stomach, so I just rolled my eyes and turned my attention back to my friends. After a few moments, I heard him calling my name while suddenly standing right beside us. That made the pain in my stomach spike to 10 times worse.
He asked how I was doing. I just said, "I'm fine," without asking him anything in return. I turned back to my friend and kept talking, hoping he'd take the hint and leave. But he didn't. He just stood there, not saying anything. I was extremely annoyed, and I saw my friends getting worried. Looking back, I think they noticed how visibly uncomfortable I'd become. Without even thinking, I turned to him and said, "You sure you want to stand this close to us? I thought you said you were allergic to Asians." The people around us went quiet and started turning their heads. He looked shocked and embarrassed. His stupid smile vanished. Then he quickly walked away. My friends were confused and amused at the same time. I explained what had happened with the old group. Honestly, making my ex-crush feel embarrassed and finally speaking up about what happened felt amazing. That awful pain in my stomach disappeared instantly. My friends hugged me and assured me that I did nothing wrong. But today, ever since I woke up, I've been feeling kind of guilty. Mostly for feeling good about what I did. Something inside me keeps telling me I should feel bad about my actions, whether or not he deserved it. Not the a-hole. Even if he was trying to be funny in the moment, he was a dick. And good for you. This was our first interaction since then. He never apologized or clarified that he was joking or not. Not the a-hole. You just reminded him of what he had said to you. If that makes you feel guilty, get over it. You did great. Thank you. It's kind of hard for me to see it that way. My parents always tell me to be polite and avoid causing a scene. Not the a-hole. You stood up for yourself and put a racist in his place. The guilt you're feeling, that's not yours to carry, that's his. You deserve respect, and you're worthy. Remember that. Thank you for saying that. What you did was perfect, because you gave him the chance. He didn't take it. And then very clearly and in a smart way communicated what he did wrong. You didn't create drama saying something vague. You didn't start to cry. You didn't try to mess up with him because he was mean. You continued with your life, trying to deal with the pain, and when he came back to be an a-hole, you didn't take it. By the way, he and his friends deserved way worse, but it rarely pans out for the victims to try and do anything against them, because they thrive in making fun and humiliating others. That is why I said your comeback was perfect. If he comes back and asks for forgiveness, do it if you feel it is okay, but don't become his friend ever again. For all you know, he might be just looking for another way to hurt you. Not the a-hole. I wish I had your quick wit for comebacks. I usually think of something 3 hours later, lol. I always try to avoid conflict and trouble, and bullies just bring trouble. Also, I hope he doesn't come near me again, even if he wants to apologize. His presence isn't good for my poor stomach. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my daughter's half-sister come over to my house again? I, 29 female, have a daughter, 9 female, with my ex-husband, 31 male. When our daughter was 18 months old, I found out he had cheated and fathered another child, and I ended our marriage. He remarried the mother of his second child, and his other daughter is 8. To make my post easier to follow, I will call my daughter Ella and her half-sister Callie. My ex and I share custody of Ella. We communicate via an app and have plenty of co-parenting issues. But I always try to put my daughter first. I kept my distance from Callie and her mom for years but was getting tons of pressure from my ex's parents to invite Callie to birthday parties because my ex and his wife don't really throw any for the girls, which I knew. I didn't invite Callie, and Ella never asked me to. But my ex's parents called me a bad mother for not putting Ella first and securing her relationship with Callie. It got to me, and when a couple of "we need a babysitter right now" emergencies came up, I agreed to have Callie over when I was taking Ella on my ex's time. I regretted it. She was here far longer than agreed on, and not only would my ex's parents not take her, but I couldn't reach him at all. When she was eventually picked up by my ex, we exchanged heated words both times. He was mad at me for calling him multiple times, and I was mad he didn't send me a heads up about it. After the second time, I swore I would never do it again, and I told my ex's parents to buzz off when they started bringing up the topic of inviting Callie to Ella's birthday parties. I ignored them for the most part, but a downside of small-town living is you see people more than you'd like. A few months ago, I became aware of my ex and his wife ignoring Callie and neglecting her. Most days, nobody picks her up from school until it's late, and I have seen her waiting at 5:30 some days, so I know there's truth to that. My ex's parents mentioned it a few times, and in response, I told them they should step up and stop telling me. My ex has started texting more and asking me to pick Callie up and babysit until someone can come and get her, and he's admitted he's leaving her out on the street on her own. I have called CPS a couple of times, especially when my ex has admitted to leaving her out there and also to not providing enough food. Nothing was done. Callie is still there, and no visit has been made that I'm aware of. Ella does not get the same experience. Not only does she use the bus, but my ex works from home on his parenting weeks. She's never gone without food, and she is not being neglected over there. Although she hates being at her dad's and wants to live with me. She doesn't have the greatest relationship with her dad. I have documented everything so that I can try to get custody eventually. But when CPS has done nothing, the chance of a change in custody is so low, especially when Ella is not neglected. This brings me back to Callie. I have been asked repeatedly to step up and help her by my ex and his parents now. And I know she's not being taken care of like she should. But I swore never again, and I have stood by that. Ella doesn't want her here. The girls aren't close, and Ella prefers it being just the two of us. I don't want Callie here either. I know she's not the cheater, but I do see her as the product of my ex's affair still, and I hated having her here. I pushed it down when she was. But knowing Ella feels the same, it doesn't inspire me to have her over more, and I do not want to provide for the child of my ex's affair. But I know she's an innocent kid, and I'm getting grief from crappy people for it, and I guess it's making me second-guess this, especially when I'm aware of what's going on. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You have done the correct thing with notifying CPS. It is an unfortunate situation, but you are not responsible for Callie. Keep calling CPS. Remind your ex, Callie is not your responsibility, and he, her mother and ex-in-laws need to step up. Where is the mother in all this and her family? I don't know her family, but she's around. We never communicate though. Let the school know over and over and over again, and if you're aware she's abandoned, call the police. That can work more effectively than going to CPS directly. We cannot save every at-risk kid by ourselves, but we can keep them on the authorities' radar. Yep, and then if a CPS case is made against them for Callie, use the results to get more custody of your child. If they neglect one child, they will do it to others. It's rich that ex's parents are coming so hard at you. Why aren't they addressing their son neglecting their grandchild? Sounds like that whole family is garbage. Total trash. This is exactly what I was thinking. I would have deleted them from my life as well as him to the utmost extent possible. The actual audacity of these people to expect her to take care of their grandchild that their dirtbag son had through an affair. Not the a-hole. Stay firm. Focus on your own daughter. And every time the ex reaches out regarding his daughter, document and send it to his parents and CPS. I don't want to be told I need to help the other child. My daughter is already in therapy. I have called CPS twice. Nothing was done. Update. My mother-in-law decided to gossip with my daughter about my marriage, blowing a giant hole in my life. Original post. My wife cheated on me nearly 10 years ago. I won't get into the specifics, as they're unimportant, but due to the fact that I saw blame on both of our parts, I forgave her and we moved past it. My daughter is 16 years old, and she only just found out from my mother-in-law, who seems to have decided she was old enough to hear the family gossip and that she would be mature enough not to confront her. Initially, my wife thought I had told her and came into my office where I had been to ask me what the heck I was thinking and if I was trying to destroy their relationship. She and my daughter have been strained for a couple of years now, lots of arguing on both sides. She refused to believe that I hadn't said anything at first, until my daughter entered the room and joined in on the screaming, saying I was too weak and that her own mother had sold her out. The fighting went on a long time, and honestly, I may as well have not been there for all the good I did. I tried to step between them when I was concerned, but that only ended with some ringing in my ear, haha. Eventually, my wife left to cool off, and my daughter and I could talk. She wasn't happy with me either and didn't hesitate to tell me so, but she wasn't screaming or throwing stuff anymore, so I just let her get it out. She asked me why I stayed, and I was honest that I was no perfect husband, and I decided not to end my marriage, break up our home, and destroy her childhood for something that I held blame in as well. The entire time I was speaking, she just kept watching me with this sad face that made me uncomfortable. But when I finished, she just shook her head and said that I needed to leave my wife and that the cheating wasn't the only issue. She started bringing up every insignificant flaw my wife has. She brought up my wife getting angry at me because I had put too much creamer in her coffee, for example. Just trivial crap. I told her as much, but she just kept shaking her head. It ended up turning into an argument where she insisted I was some sort of victim and started making some kind of getaway plan. I kept trying to talk her down, but that was going nowhere. I first tried calling my wife, but found my call went straight to voicemail, so I called my mother-in-law to inform her of the situation. But my wife had already made it there and planned to stay overnight to calm down, because she didn't want to see either of our faces. It's been a few days now and I still haven't seen her or heard from her, but her mother informs me she's okay, just very emotional. So I'm also scared for my wife. She has had mental health struggles before, and if she's going through that again, I should be there to help. She almost died the last time she had an episode, and I don't think even my daughter, as angry as she is right now, wants her mom gone. My daughter told me she hopes her mother never comes back. I'm just feeling defeated and tired. I've done everything I can to keep this family floating, and somehow I'm still failing. It's beginning to feel like I always do, at everything, and always will fail at everything, as long as I live. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Okay, few thoughts here. 1. Mother-in-law is completely in the wrong. It's no one's business to fill daughter in on family gossip that includes her parents. 2. I'm sure some of this is normal teenage rebellion crap. However, your wife got angry about too much creamer in the coffee. You say trivial stuff, but how often does wife get overly sensitive about trivial crap? There is a point where it becomes you managing wife's emotional outbursts instead of wife working on her own issues. Does daughter have a point at all? Yeah, because that's an odd thing to get genuinely angry over. And it makes me wonder why mom and daughter were butting heads to start with. Maybe mom is not just abusive to dad. I 120% agree with the mother-in-law part. I'm slightly in shock that my wife is mad at me and our daughter, but somehow not too angry to stay in the house of the person who told her. I don't know. That part has been messing me up a lot, I think. My daughter has definitely been going through some teenage rebellion stuff, which I haven't minded because it's introduced me to a lot of new music when she's mad, but my wife has had some issue with it because she's scared that when our daughter gets older, she'll regret all the crazy hair or odd clothes. I've been trying to help her with that because I was a little teenage dirtbag myself, and my daughter is a good kid. No real trouble out of her other than being a smartass sometimes, which she comes by honestly. To the rest, I don't know. My wife is temperamental, but she's not violent. I mean, she just gets mad easily. She gets over it pretty fast though. Like she yelled about the coffee thing, dumped it out, got a new cup, and it never came up again. I honestly forgot about it until my daughter brought it up. It really wasn't a big deal. Okay, just because someone isn't violent doesn't mean they aren't making an emotionally hostile environment for everyone else. And you may need to examine that, or I anticipate your daughter will want to leave the house as soon as she's able to. My dad remarried a woman with a similar temperament. She was quick to anger, but quick to move on. It honestly felt like an emotional roller coaster sometimes. Dad loved her, so he looked past this flaw as her partner, chalking it up to just the way she is, but she's a good person. And yeah, that was true. She wasn't a bad person. But he failed to realize her emotional outbursts made us kids feel like the vibe around the house was tense, since small trivial things could make her snap, even for just a minute. It just wasn't pleasant to be around at all. They were always so close growing up, though. I mean, I felt like the bonus parent at times because they were so close when she was little. Like, I remember being a bit jealous about it, because I would laugh and think to myself that I thought dads and daughters were supposed to have this special relationship. Haha. They only really started fighting when my daughter was 14. I guess I still feel guilty because their first fight was 100% my fault, and I still blame myself for it. So I'm also scared for my wife. She has had mental health struggles before, and if she's going through that again, I should be there to help. At first glance, your daughter sounds like a spoiled busybody, but upon closer review, it seems you are a doormat who she is frustrated about. How in your mind did your wife end up the victim? I didn't say she was a victim. Trust me, I'm angry as heck that she left, and I'm beyond furious that it's been days with no word. I don't like her outright abandoning her daughter during an emotionally turbulent time because she's upset. We will be discussing that when she gets back. As I stated in another comment, I am going to be having a longer discussion with my daughter about her, specifically her, problems with her mother. Not what problems she has with my marriage, but her relationship with her mother. And depending on how that conversation goes, I may separate from my wife. However, I know that my wife does also have a mental health condition. No matter how angry I am, I don't want her to end up hurt because of where her mind is. Now for the update a year later. It's been a while. I'll probably regret posting this as much as I did the first time, though for different reasons. Before I begin, I want to thank all the kind people who reached out with genuine advice and with whom I had lovely conversations. I appreciate you more than I can say. Checking my history, I saw that I never updated after the conversation with my daughter about her situation with my wife. We talked, and it went worse than I expected, but better than most of the comments. She never hit my daughter or threatened her. My daughter did bring up the yelling and I listened. She said she was never afraid of her mother, but she started to hate her when she noticed how she treated me, hence the change in appearance and the rebelling. She liked that I stood up for her when it came to her new style, because then I was standing up for something. That makes me laugh a bit now, but at the time, I was confused. We talked a long time, and she said she thought maybe she could get over the resentment she had for her mother if she didn't have to see the way she treats me. I didn't much like that at the time, and I admit I argued that I was an adult, and she didn't have to fight my fights for me. My daughter said something like, "If I don't, who will?" And it just kind of stopped me in my tracks, because my only answer, "Sometimes you have to pick your battles," sounds weak when you pick none of them. I still intended to try to work on my marriage, despite the comments. I really hope to turn things around because of their previous relationship, and frankly, how much I still loved my then wife. But then she didn't come home for weeks. I don't know if it was my daughter's needling, or the fact that I could tell she was upset at being abandoned by her mother at the first sign of trouble, but one day I eventually reached out and asked my ex-mother-in-law when my wife was going to come home and act like an adult. I was told she was looking into divorce attorneys and that if I wanted her back, I should really work on getting my daughter to apologize. It all felt so manipulative, and I just got so angry. I hung up and spoke to my own lawyer. After being served, she tried to come back and cried that it was her mental health, but I was still so angry I just shut her down and told her to leave. The divorce was finalized a while ago. My daughter stays with me most of the time since her mother moved out of state afterward, and she wants to go to college in the area when the time comes. She visits mother-in-law and speaks to her mother on the phone sometimes. As much as I hate to admit it, their relationship is improving since the divorce. I don't hate my ex-wife, even if many, including my daughter, categorize her as abusive. She's the first woman I ever really clicked with in that way, and though I don't love her anymore, probably the last. I don't mind it so much. I have a full life without her around, and a quieter one as well. But anyway, thank you all again for listening, and I am bracing for the I told you so's. I don't blame you, you did. She thought your daughter should apologize? You will be so much better off without her. I'm fairly certain she wanted my teenage daughter to pretend she didn't even know, which is ridiculous. And regardless of my feelings on the incident, that wasn't going to happen, and I wouldn't want it to. Your daughter saved all 3 of your lives. Your wife was abusive, your daughter was being abused, and so were you. I'm glad she was adult enough to finally put an end to this madness. I really hope your ex-wife gets serious mental help and your daughter doesn't have lasting effects from it. From what I know, my ex is finding herself. Good for her. I never even knew she was lost. My daughter is a strong young woman, stronger than I ever was or ever will be. I am prouder of her than I can possibly explain, even without this situation. She's the best part of my life, and to quote the old sayings, when I count my blessings, I count her twice. My girls were the same when I left their cheating father. It wasn't pretty. He has serious mental health issues also. It's been 13 years and he is still lost. And I count them twice too. They are the best thing I ever did in my life. It does seem obvious that you are being a doormat if your own child viewed herself as needing to be your savior from her mother. Then learning the betrayal made how she felt 10 times more valid. I believe your ex-mother-in-law wanted this outcome and felt similar to your daughter. Hopefully you're doing better for yourself and listening to your daughter more instead of being defensive. Good luck with everything. My ex-mother-in-law may have, but with the crap storm she was constantly starting during the divorce, I doubt it. I think she just wanted to gossip and start drama. Predictable for her. From what I hear from my daughter, I don't ask, but she tells anyway. Mother-in-law is broken up about my ex leaving the state. Well, that's crappy to learn. That was not her place to interject. So if what you say is true, then I'd be very careful with ex-mother-in-law going forward with information. How is her relationship with your daughter? Growing more distant as time goes on, but they are still in contact. My mother-in-law hates me now, so I think that causes some tension, unfortunately. I don't even talk to the woman anymore, but somehow I am still an issue for them. It's a shame. I wish she would just grow up. Next story. My wife cried because she was cruel to me and still haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Original post. Hello. I've never posted here. I'm sorry. I really don't know exactly how to start telling this story, especially because I know it makes me look like a total prick. My wife and I have been together for around 4 years, married after 6 months of dating, and it's been mostly a dream since then, except for this one thing. She just likes to laugh and goof around, and a lot of her joking tends to have the opposite effect than intended. I'm normally not going to get upset about that kind of thing. It's not an everyday thing, but maybe weekly? Okay, ton of context out of the way. Last night, my wife and I both had a hard day at work. I think. We didn't get to talk about it because the minute we got home there was more work. You know how it is. Dogs made a hell of a mess. Yeah, so we were pretty stressed and out of it. And all I wanted to do was watch the movie she picked out and go to bed. But then she decided it would be funny to drop a couple of jokes about my appearance. Specifically, about one aspect of that appearance I have issues with. That day, I was just so tired and already upset, and I just looked at her and said, "Ow." She laughed again, but I didn't drop it. I insisted on an answer as to why she would say that about me. She asked what I meant, and I asked what kind of response she expected when she made fun of me for my appearance. Particularly a part she knew I felt bad about. I almost did the children's empathy talk. Where you go, and how would you feel if someone did that to you? But I knew that would be condescending and wrong, so I didn't. Anyway, I wouldn't have gotten much out, because this is when the crying started. I didn't get to see it stop for long all night. Just big, heaving sobs and shaking, telling me that she thinks she's going to have a panic attack all night long, because I scared her by being so serious. I am not an angry person. I've never been violent. I never moved from my seat when I brought up the mocking thing. She had no reason to think that, and I could think of only one reason for her to cry like that. And this is where I'm going to sound like a prick, and why I'm doing this anonymously. She saw that I was calling her out for making fun of me for no reason, and wanted to change the vibe and feeling in the room as quickly as possible, to instead focus on her having an episode. This isn't the first time this has happened, but it's the first time I've noticed a pattern. Step 1, she upsets someone. Step 2, she will have a panic attack if you don't comfort her right now actually. Step 3, I shove aside any and all feelings I have on the matter, no matter what it's about, apparently including mocking me. But if I don't, she'll have a genuine medical episode, and we could wind up in the hospital. If the person offended is not me, they may also be brought in for emotional support, but I will be. Do I really think that's what it is? I want to say no so bad, but a part of me does. Don't get me wrong, 99.999% of me isn't a prick, but that very small part, it's something I cannot stop thinking about. And I don't know if I want to bury myself alive or go to marriage counseling. Because one of us has a problem. Because if she's doing that, what? But because she isn't, instead I have the problem and currently feel like I'm going through some kind of psycho-werewolf transformation type thing. Totally normal and cool with my wife, right up until the full moon is out. And then I turn into a rabid animal and accuse her of faking her mental health diagnosis, apparently. Like the monster you are. Now for the top advice before reading the update. I went straight to, she's trying to manipulate the situation. Same. I hate to say it, but I feel the panic attacks are her way of gaslighting OP and making herself the victim. Reminds me of a girl I used to call a friend. She could always dish it out, no breaks. The moment she's called out on it, she's a victim. If you feel this works for you, that's your business. But I don't talk to that girl anymore. There is nothing worse than to find out how alone you are in a room with another person you thought you could speak to and be understood by. And psyching yourself out of judging, quite fairly and justifiably. Someone who refuses to acknowledge the most basic feelings you have is a bad move for yourself. She hurt you, you tried to address it. She didn't want to stick around for anything further, so she checked out. That's the facts. Crying works on empathetic people because it signals that things have gone too far, that some harm has taken place, and that you should stop whatever you're doing. But what you're doing is defending yourself in a civilized way. You're the hurt one, and the only one who should have stopped and needs to stop is her. That's nothing you should be second-guessing. Now for the update 8 months later. So, I didn't think I would update, because after we talked about my thoughts on the issue, it was an even bigger panic attack and sobbing, and asking if I thought she was evil and all this other stuff that made me feel like the devil incarnate forever, even beginning to doubt her. We went back to the usual, and I had to deal with more of it. I didn't mention it in the last post, but this issue she had didn't just apply to me, it was for everyone and everything that could upset her. And no matter what therapy or meds she was prescribed, it did nothing at all. It wore me down so bad I was sleeping badly and just about lost my job because I couldn't focus. Because what if she had a panic attack at work? What if I wasn't there and she needed me? We had been genuinely talking about her quitting her job, at least until we found something that worked to combat the stress and anxiety she seemed to be feeling all the damn time. All of which made me feel all the more pathetic after I found out she was cheating on me. The guy worked with her and reached out to tell me because he didn't know she was married. I knew I couldn't confront her in person because her reaction would likely make me think the guy made it all up somehow, despite having texts he showed me from and to her number, and photos I'd rather not discuss. I just moved out and took my dog. Calm down. She never even liked him that much. Hasn't asked about him once. Anyway, I texted her that I knew and was going to talk to a lawyer and asked that she did the same. A lot of crying voicemails and saying she didn't know what I was talking about, followed by trickle-truthing and text messages while I was on my friend's couch. We're still in the middle of everything, but it's pretty cut and dry. Hardly any marital assets worth speaking of, and the lease is in her name. I honestly am surprised by how little heartbreak I actually felt, coupled with a weird sense of relief. I definitely thought getting cheated on would be the worst thing anyone could do to their partner, but if it wasn't a dick move, I would thank her. Anyway, thank you all so much for the advice, even if I was too stupid or weak of spine to take it at the time. It was helpful for just a little bit to not feel crazy.